This topic is important. If you want to teach ESL in China, you're going to have to go through this process. I'm going to break this video into two parts. The first part is going to talk about when you are coming from outside of China to China to teach ESL. And the second part is if you're in China and you're trying to change jobs to find a new career, to move to a new school or a new employer. So let's get into this video. Let's take it from the top. Now let's talk about the first part, which is if you're coming from outside of China into China to teach ESL. Now, to come to China, that means you have to secure a job first. I'm not going to talk about the job finding process. That's up to you. You can use certain websites. You can use recruiters. That's on you. But then after you've secured your job, that means you need to have entry, a way of entering the country. That is where the visa called the work visa comes in. It is also called the Z visa in China. Now, the Z visa is only valid for 30 days after you enter China, after which you need to change the Z visa to a work permit and a residence permit. In order to get the Z visa, your employer needs to submit some documents to the respective authority. What they need from you is they need your experience, a document that shows that you have experience in the field for which they employ you. So for instance, you need to give a notice or a letter from your previous employer that is stamped, that shows that you did work there, you have experience. Number two, you need to provide your certificate. Usually it has to be a bachelor's or something. Number three, your passport, obviously. And you need a medical check. So a medical check is also important. You also need to provide a non-criminal record that shows that you're not a felon or anything like that. So to provide these to your employer, you need to take these documents to the embassy in your country, the Chinese embassy in your country, and they're going to certify that these documents are indeed correct. In your country, there could be another body that does this, but then sometimes there are lawyers or something like that that do this, but then you need to find the right place. I'm not sure exactly what it is like in your country, but then you need to certify these documents, provide them to your boss, and then they're going to get a Z visa for you. After you come to China, they're going to take that Z visa, and then they're going to apply with the same documents for a work permit. The visa in itself doesn't allow you to work. It's the work permit that allows you to work. So they take the documents, they apply for a work permit, and then that means you can do the work that you've been given. But then, in order to stay in the country, you need a residence permit. You don't stay in China with a Z visa. You stay in China with a residence permit. And for those who come to China to work, there's something called a residence permit for work. So they take your work permit and they go to the respective authority and say, this guy has a job here, this person has a job here, and they need residency, a residence permit for that. And then they apply for that. Now let's talk about the second part. You're already in China, you're trying to move from one employer to another. In other words, you've secured a new job and you're trying to move over. First thing you need to do is you need to resign. You can't find a new job if you already have another one. Resign means, first of all, you provide your resignation letter, whether by mouth or by word or letter or whatever it is. And then they need to, number two, cancel your work permit. Cancel just means you're no longer attached to them, to your current employer. So they need to go into the system and cancel your work permit. When that work permit is canceled, they will provide you a letter that shows that first, your work permit has been canceled, and secondly, they will provide you a letter of recommendation, especially if you're in good terms. If you're not, then it's up to you. It's not required per se, which is the letter, but it helps if you have it. So you take the letter, the cancellation notice, and then you go over to your new employer. You give all that information to your new employer, they're going to apply for a new work permit for you. Now there's one issue. First is if it's the same role, you're a teacher here, you're going to the new company as a teacher, you don't have a problem. It's the same role, it's the same job. But if you change roles, maybe you're a teacher here, you're going to go be a mechanic or something else. That means they need to apply for a new work permit, new category, and it's going to be a longer process. But if it's the same role, then it's not a big deal. They can just transfer your information and everything goes smoothly. After you cancel your work permit and then you get the letter and you provide the information to your new employer, they can't start yet. One, because you have a residence permit for work that is tied to your current boss. After they cancel your work permit, they also need to go cancel your residence permit. After your residence permit is cancelled, you get what is called the T visa. A T visa is a stay visa that allows you to stay in China for a period of time, a period in which you can look for a job or do whatever it is that you want to do. It's either 15 days or 30 days, but usually first it's 15, and if you need maybe an extension, they give you. Sometimes also, if you're lucky, they just give you 30 days. You take that, and then you go to your new employer. They're going to apply for a new work permit. When they get the work permit, you're going to take the work permit and go apply again for a new residence permit for you. Let's try and do a recap. Number one, if you're outside the country, you need to take all your documents, provide to your employer. They take that information, they will get a Z visa for you. When you come into China, you're going to take the Z visa and you're going to go apply for a work permit. With the work permit, it means you can now work here in China, so you can apply for a residence permit, which allows you to stay here in China. You don't stay in China with a Z visa. Number one. Number two, if you're moving over to a new company, first of all, they cancel your residence permit. Then they give you a cancellation notice, and then they also give you a recommendation letter. Solely depends on if you're on good terms with them. Then you take that information, you go and cancel also your residence permit, because your residence permit is always tied to a company you're working for. After you cancel it, you take all that information, you move to your new employer, they apply for a work permit for you. If it's the same title, no problem, easy. If it's a new title, they need to reapply. That means you also need to provide evidence that supports the new role. After applying for the work permit, they're going to take all that and go apply for a residence permit for you. Easy peasy. So, you got it? If you have any comments, leave them down below. If there's something you need me to explain, let me know in the comments. I'll make another video on that. Okay? Catch you in the next one. Bye.